Bienvenidas to Latina Literati. If you enjoy interesting ideas, wonderful places, and great books, then this is the channel for you. Today, we're going to delve right into some good news on Earth Day. We're going to celebrate this special day, talk a little bit about the history, and share with you some of the amazing efforts that are being made, especially by young people around the world, to make a difference. So from the UK to Uganda, from Portugal to Guinea-Bissau, from Bali to the Netherlands, children, students, young people are really taking the lead, the charge in trying to save our planet. So let's celebrate their efforts, and I'll just give you a couple of samples. For example, in the UK, students are insisting that their schools be run on solar panels and other green technologies, including biofuels for their school buses. In Bali, students built an actual school from bamboo, established a permaculture garden around the school from which they could then have their school lunches prepared, and then the cooking oil used in their school kitchen could then fuel the school bus to take them from home to school. Really amazing, very creative, very imaginative solutions to the problems of diminishing our impact, our global footprint, our carbon global footprint, and addressing the climate crises. So mitigating the impact that we each have on the climate is really dependent on our choices. And so a lot of corporations are doing what they shouldn't be doing, but we as on the individual level can buy things from people around us. If we're looking into the eyes of the farmer that's grown the food that we're buying at the farmer's market, or if we're buying services and products from those in our neighborhood, then the carbon footprint of what we're buying is much less than if we're buying things that are having to be sent from the other side of the planet. And so every one of our choices every day makes a big impact. And we'll talk a little bit about, when we come together, how big of an impact we can make. Students in Portugal and Guinea-Bissau came together and built some solar lights that also allow for studying at night in areas where there may not be electricity. They also built solar ovens so that families wouldn't have to cut wood and deforest around their communities, and the food could be cooked in these solar ovens. The students also built solar dehydrators to store food, and this allows communities to prepare food and allow it to last a lot longer. There are also new ways to take water from the air, and that same movement that extracts the water from the air also then powers a generator that allows that same water then to, for example, be used for irrigating fields in areas that may be more arid. Really interesting technologies that are being put into place all over the world to try and make an impact on how we use resources and to diminish our carbon footprint. Biofuels such as switchgrass result in much less byproduct, and the cellulose types of grasses, when used as biofuels, are a much better alternative than fossil fuels. So look around. You can even buy a converter kit for your own vehicle and convert it to biofuels. It's not something that you don't have to buy a biofuel vehicle. You can just buy a converter kit. Really interesting technologies. We need negative carbon systems in every aspect, in everything we're doing, whether it's preparing food or in transportation or in education. We need to diminish the carbon footprint. Today, I also want to share with you a meal that I prepared, Family Sunday lunch, all from products that were bought at the local farmers market. So pesto-filled portobello mushrooms, panzanella salad, something called scarpaccio. Scarpa in Italian means shoe, and this supposedly looks like a well-worn shoe when it comes out of the oven. I didn't think so, but I'll let you be the judge of that. It's a savory tart made of spinach, zucchini, sun-dried tomatoes, pine nuts in a crust, and so the family enjoyed it, and it was all purchased from local farmers. So I thought I would share that with you as inspiration today. But let's delve in a bit into history. Before 1970, there was no Earth Day, there was no Clean Water Act, there was no Clean Air Act. 20 million people took to the streets of North America and demanded action. 20 million people took to the streets, and Congress listened. So the Environmental Protection Agency was established in 1970, the Clean Water Act was passed in 1970, the Clean Air Act was passed in 1970, and Earth Day was established. And they were all signed into law by a man named Richard Nixon. Saving the planet is far more important than political parties. And in 1970, people came together to sign those things into law. And those are the instruments that have been used since then to ensure that the water that we drink and the air that we breathe are healthy. Except, of course, for Flint, Michigan. But that's more about political corruption than upholding the law. Only the fossil fuel companies in 1970 already knew that their extractive processes would mean a death knell for all of us. And so some of the lawsuits that have come since then show that even then they knew what this would mean for us as a planet. Some lawsuits, they're being asked to be held accountable for basically withholding this really important scientific knowledge from all of us. Imagine if we had begun in 1970s to do what we're trying to do now, to transition to a greener economy, to transition to other ways of thinking about how we live. If we've learned anything over the last 2 years, it's when we need to change, we will change. When we need to really think about doing things in a different way and doing things better, we can and we will. And again, I really commend the students and the young people who are taking the lead on this all over the world. So change starts with action, and this year the goal is 1 billion acts of green. And in the description box I will leave links so that you can look up events in your area as well. I'm sure that there will be beach cleanups, and there will be tree plantings, and there will be citizen scientists that do everything from count the monarch butterflies to check air and water quality in different places. So there's all sorts of things that you can do to join the 1 billion acts of green. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I am pulling permits to rewild my sidewalk and my backyard, and we'll talk a little bit about that later in the book recommendations. So we all have the ability of contributing, and our most precious resource is our time and our energy, our creativity, our ideas. And so take a look at what I leave in the description box, and hopefully you'll click on some of the links and read about some of the places where you can spend a little bit of time making a big difference. So now on to the Earth Day book recommendations. Yay! My favorite part of the video. First book recommendation is A Man from Clear Lake by Bill Christopherson. And this is the story of the senator from Wisconsin who would found Earth Day. His name was Gaylord Nelson, and he was at the right place at the right time with the right values. So not only was he fighting for environmental justice, but he would also join in the Voting Rights Act struggle, in the struggle to alleviate poverty, for the different social justice struggles as well. So this is his story. It's quite inspirational. Talks to the fact that when you really believe in something, you bring people together and make it happen. And so it's a great book, easy read, really recommend it. Links in the description box. for online bookstores that use your purchase to then fund literacy in other communities, but your public library is always the first place, or your local bookstore is preferable. We always need to support our neighbors. The second book is called Feral by George Monbiot, and he goes to places that have been left alone, where you just step back. People have simply stopped going to these places, and now all of a sudden in what were hunting grounds, lynx and wolves have returned. He's on a kayak in Wales among dolphins and other creatures that have come back when we as humans just step back and let Mother Nature heal herself. So it's a great lesson, and it's one that inspired me in my journey to rewild my sidewalk. At some point, maybe for next Earth Day, I'll show you before and after pictures. Join the author as he journeys throughout the world, looking at places that have become feral again. Rewilding is kind of the buzzword. In other books that I've read, they said if all of us rewilded our front yard and our backyard, we would save hundreds of species. And so I would recommend to you to take a look and think about green spaces that you can add to, whether it's a sidewalk in front of your home or your backyard or even a deck. All of those things can be pollinator oases, and we all need to do a little bit to make a big change and a big difference in our world. The third book is Eating to Extinction by Dan Saladino, and this is a book which shares some of the oldest foods like Anatolian wheat with us, their history, and why we need to preserve them. We know that variety is needed for a healthy gut, healthy biome in our systems. We know that crops need to have variety because, for example, if you only plant one type of potato and there's disease, then you won't have any crop at all. But as you can imagine, the mono crops that the huge corporations farm really crush this fragile variety system. So we need to look at ways that we can, again, every day, if we're buying directly from farmers, from small local farmers, then they're the ones receiving our resources rather than the giant monocrop companies. So every day we make the decision who we're going to support, and that's really, really central to making a big difference. The impact that we have every day in our buying decisions is huge. So this book talks about the importance of variety in the plants that we eat, and the importance on a global scale of keeping varieties for other animals to also consume. Thank you so much for accompanying us on this journey through Earth Day, and we hope that it has scintillated some ideas and inspired you as these topics inspire me. We would love to have you consider, if you haven't already, to subscribe, to share, and to also tell us in the comments what are the green acts that you're going to participate in? What are the ways that you'd like to get involved? What are the things you'd like us to talk about on this channel? Because it really is a team effort. Thank you always to my technical team. As always, we wish you mucha salud, mucho cariño, felicidad, mucho amor. Gracias.